You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. Now, the number one sports podcast network in the world. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. With the only Chris Level, I'm Casey Cowan. Chris, great to be back with you. Welcome back to West Texas. And unfortunately, with the result we were not hoping for. Red Raiders shut down in Miami, courtesy of the Oregon Ducks. We are going to get to some thoughts on obviously how that played out. But Chris, we hardly even have time to really react in full, because a lot of what we'll talk about on today's episode is what we saw that it would take to compete on that level in Miami. And now what that means as it relates to what's next. And it's really not just next, it's already happening. A portal frenzy upon us. We got visits, we've got targets on campus today, maybe as we're speaking or as you're listening to this, into the weekend, including a top QB target. We got a whole lot to get to. But first, welcome back from Miami. You had the view from the sideline there, and I'm sure just as frustrating to see it play out in the fashion that it did for you as it was for us back home, man. How's it sitting with you, I guess, now with at least a sleep on it?
Well, losing sucks. And it stings. People have reacted in a variety of different ways. I've certainly seen all the frustration and the appreciation and everything in between for what these guys accomplished. And we've got time to kind of digest that and kind of look at that as we go. In the immediate, though, this was I felt like I was watching the Texas Tech Houston game or the Texas Tech BYU game, the first one or even the second one, but the roles were reversed. I felt like, this isn't what will be written, but, I could see where Oregon is like, man, we got all these red zone issues, or we can't get our offense. Why are we having to settle for all these field goals? Well, Texas Tech had a lot to do with that. And then I just think that your offense looked like it was going against the Texas Tech defense, like the way Texas Tech's defense made every offense look this year for the most part. So on that stage against that opponent, your defense belonged. Your offense just didn't have it. It wasn't up to par. You can point to personnel, you can point to Barron, you can point to Mack in the game that he called. You can point to the offensive line, which I think is but I told you on the last time we talked and did one of these, I was worried about 1 and 52 in the middle. The two Amari and Bear, the two interior D linemen, thought they controlled the line of scrimmage, and I think that they had a good defensive game plan. And I think there were some guys open. I think Barron would probably love to have that over again, but it just, you couldn't. And this was a game, as I thought about it on the flight home, and it was a long Thursday, just because it was an early start. We were at the stadium early, got home late yesterday, and just on your feet and traveling the whole time, and then processing all of the emotion, the excitement, and then the emotion of the way you lost. And that was a game. Barron needed to be at his best. Your offensive line needed to be at its best. You needed to have somebody like Quentin Joyner there as well. You just needed the best of everything offensively. And look, Oregon's roster costs way more than yours did, and they've had some head start on their building and their depth and all the things. They also have the pain from last year that they're dealing with, whether that's something that you have to earn the right to kind of push through, but that's why I felt like the pressure was on them. But they certainly answered the bell a little bit, and but it just doesn't take away, as frustrating as it was, what an unbelievable experience on South Beach in Miami at the Orange Bowl. You absolutely earn the right to be there, and we'll talk about this too, but you had the Big 12 banner that you were trying to wave, and Big 12 doesn't look very good today. That's all there is to it. And you have something to say about that, but so does everybody else. And what I mean by that is you just ran through this league with like a hot knife through butter, man. And you didn't know what you didn't know, like you maybe you didn't know that you had some deficiencies on your offense, or what it was going to look like against somebody like that. You knew you had some red zone issues, but nobody just threw it at you like they did, and you just had no answer. But we'll talk about that as we go, and it sucks. I told you so's folks would be out there. They were out en masse after it was over, pointing, laughing. There will be more of that, and just what comes with the territory that you're in now. You're in a different neighborhood, and that's just part of it. But you're hoping to stay in that neighborhood, and that's kind of what I want to get to next. Is there's no time to grieve if you're a player or a coach. It's business. It is what's next, as the head coach often says. And they are, as you and I sitting here talking, full go at the facility. There's about to be players coming in, and you're tasked with trying to build the next monster that we'll be talking about 9 months from now. The decisions that are made in the coming hours and days will largely dictate everybody's emotions starting next September and October and November and all that stuff on what kind of team you put together. But frustrating day in Miami for sure. Kudos to Oregon. They were well-rounded like we thought, and they were better than you were. And it losing sucks.
That's right. I do feel like a lot of what we did see come to pass was sort of an anticipated fear, though. The offense all season long, you kind of wondered, particularly in the trenches, could you stand up to the best of the best if you were able to get to a college football playoff, and could you really measure up to that? And I think there was a lot of justified skepticism that you would be able to. Obviously, we know what the offensive narrative was this year, and you wind up with about like 2.25 playmakers, I think, offensively. Jacoby Williams, Terrence Carter, maybe a quarter of Virgil or Douglas or Dickey on some days. But we also understood that there was a lot of explosive plays that came courtesy of some things that were happening beyond, the offensive line, or beyond like sustained drives or sustained offensive success. It was a lot of fun to watch. But I think any fair-minded individual was wondering, okay, when it really tightens up, say against a national title contender, what's it look like? And I think even some skepticism for me, Chris, was more so saying like, man, I don't know if you can go get that point you need in the fourth quarter or something along those lines. I did not anticipate we're not even going to let you turn the lights on. So that was still a bit of a shock and so frustrating. You're exactly right when you talk about the experience being somewhat like, and this was a comment that was uttered by some of the company I was keeping, the experience being somewhat like what others felt against Tech's defense this year. The word suffocating was coming to mind. And of course, we did throw in a few bonehead instances just for good measure, as far as some penalties or some poor execution or whatever. That's been a part of that narrative also. You got a long way to go offensively. There's no question about that. That's part of what we saw it looking like, or needing to look like, if you're going to compete on that stage. Defensively, you belonged, and then some. You gave Oregon arguably their second worst offensive day of the year. That's no small thing. I will not subscribe to any fraudulent narratives. And I'm just trying to track the logic here with everybody who's talking about Texas Tech being a team that thumped the entire league, save for Arizona State. Yet the league goes on to have a lot of bowl success. Tech loses a game against the national title contender, and that deflates the league. How does all that math add up exactly? I'm not quite sure. I'm not even sure I'm going to indulge in trying to figure that out, Chris, but the fraudulent angle is fiction. Credit to Oregon. Credit to the defensive front, particularly, as you already touched on, for I thought really manhandling Texas Tech up front. There is no different offensive play call or quarterback that I feel like would change that. So just my view on sort of the way that it went down and some of the summation of what we saw, because in many ways, Chris, still in the fourth quarter, I'm thinking deep into it, I can't believe you sort of have a shot still. If you were able to get a break here or there to be right back in it and possibly even have a chance to win, but you did not. 23 feels worse than 16, 21-0 on a PlayStation. You turn it off. That's a skunk. I get it. Everybody have fun with that. Go wild on the internet. Should we pivot to what's next? Because I'm already so curious as to the wheels turning over at the facility. We got a lot of portal considerations to talk about. We got a lot of things in general to consider as far as what was missing from the Orange Bowl that now you'd like to see maybe be in place for 2026, Chris. And I think we also have, of course, still that number one QB target to discuss. Do we start there or elsewhere? Because I know that at last report, at least among the Matador Mob, on Friday, midday, late morning, there was an intended visit from Brendan Sorsby on campus. So at whatever hour that's going to actually go down, we can begin there and then touch on the frenzy that is already in progress, if you'd now like to catch your breath and get ready for that.
Yeah, and your task here is to try to, put a defense out there that resembles what you just had, which is going to be extremely difficult to do. Okay, just so we're clear. I think you said it best after the game was over on a video that you did, that this is the standard. This is the best that we've ever seen. I don't know if anybody can dispute that. I do think there's some hope that you can put something together that's similar. They're working on it. I think that it's crazy because I think you feel like you had a good offense. It was fourth nationally. You were explosive. I touched on this in some of the stuff we did leading up to the Orange Bowl about you had the second most explosive plays of anybody in the country. Only Oregon was more. So you have a lot to work with there, but I think you are going to try to upgrade. I will say this. I think that when you played a game like you did against Oregon, it is just painfully obvious how much you really need in this day and age to have a quarterback that can run it some. I'm not suggesting you're looking for Eric Crouch and your leading running back as your quarterback, but when the defense doesn't have to respect that aspect, it just makes it all a bit trickier. You never even got to the red zone to where that's really what it showed up, other than the one trip down there when Barron threw the interception and underthrew the ball to either Douglas or Reggie in the corner, just underthrew it a bit. But I just think that's what and so as we transition into portal time here, because it is going right now, it is fast and furious. As you watch this, things could have and might have changed. So just bear with us as we get through these next several hours and days and week plus of the movement, because there's going to be a lot. I think that you could lose quite a few, and you're going to have to add quite a few. We always get to early or mid-December and ask Coach McGuire, hey, what's the number you're thinking? And it's going to be the same as last year, where he kind of was like, man, 8 to 10 guys, maybe a little bit more. We'll just see. I think this thing you could be in the 20s fairly easily here, just because the situation dictates it. This is all going to start with the quarterback.
First, today's episode brought to you by Rugiet Ready. Daily stress doesn't just switch off at night, and when it shows up at the worst possible time, Rugiet Ready is designed to help you take back control. Rugiet Ready is a next-generation prescription treatment created to support both the brain and the body, so you can feel present, confident, and ready when the moment matters. Rugiet Ready combines 3 clinically proven ingredients in one mint that dissolves under your tongue so it absorbs with lightning speed, leaving you maximum mental and physical readiness. You simply connect with a board-certified doctor online, and everything ships discreetly to your door, and it's easy to understand why over 150,000 men have already made the switch. One 15-minute span on average for most to be ready, so you can stay present, confident, and in control in any moment that becomes the right moment. And if you've been thinking about taking the next step, now's the time. Head to Rugiet.com/lockedoncollege. That's Rugiet, RUGIET.com/lockedoncollege to get 15% off your order for a limited time. Rugiet Ready. Feel present, feel confident, feel ready.
This is all going to start with the quarterback. I do believe Brendan Sorsby, by the time you're watching this, the plan is for him to be in Lubbock, Texas, basically on Friday afternoon. I think there is a visit set to LSU. I think that is really smart leverage and backup plan and all the things. I think that if he gets here, he'll either be a Red Raider or you'll have moved on. I think if he goes to LSU, I don't know if Texas Tech will still be an option for him. That's what I think. Just because I think that they will try to – this is what they're going to do, man. They did this last year. Hey, man, if you leave, we're moving on. The timing, there's just only so many days. So I think that they have some other options at quarterback that I don't think that they really want to pursue, because I think Brendan Sorsby is the apple of their eye. I do think that looks very promising and very good for all the reasons that we've laid out leading up to this. And so we'll just see what it looks like in the coming hours and day plus on what happens there. But much like a recruiting class, a normal recruiting class, not a portal one, quarterbacks fall off the board quickest. There's fewer of them. You got to get that piece put together, because typically that piece can help you get the other pieces put together. That in this case is going to cost the most. So really, it's all kind of hinges right now on that one. You'll be working on other things simultaneously, hosting other guys as well. But it just you need to get that piece done and settled and put to bed, and then really advance. So that's where the focus is right now. But and you know, there's wild speculation out there about where these high-profile guys are going, and I don't know if everybody's technically entered the portal yet. That intends to, because those announcements are coming fast and furious. You know, since really midnight earlier this morning, technically. So I'll shut up and we can take this whatever direction you want. But there's a lot here, man.
I'm sort of curious to check in on the home front as well. And again, this is hour by hour. So, you know, that's why you want to get subscribed, YouTube, anywhere you get podcasts, so you never miss a thing. Because we may be updating our own conversation just a few hours from now. But we've seen some names already announce intentions prior, obviously, to now. So anything catching your eye from a Red Raider departure standpoint we need to catch up on?
Yeah, I mean, so this is going to affect – this is why I'm saying to you that I think the 8 to 12 number is just not realistic. I think it's going to get closer to 20, you know, a little less, a little more, somewhere around there. Because, I think and there's some positions to watch here. Let's highlight three of them, at least that we know now. Again, we will continue to update these conversations as we go, but let's just start at receiver. I don't think Reggie Virgil is coming back here. I don't, Caleb graduates. TJ West, Kelby Volson. I think some questions about Tyson Turner. I mean, there's just you've got some red shirts that redshirted this year, like Bryson Jones, like Leighton Stone, Michael Deaver, Chase Campbell is going to be a dude. Micah Hudson, I think, is probably in line to start next year. Coy Aiken, we'll keep an eye on that. And so I think you're probably looking at adding 2 to 3 wideouts, whereas maybe a week to 10 days ago, maybe you thought one, but I think 2 to 3 wideouts, and I may even offer up and just say at least, just because now how many starters do you need? And then how much depth do you need? Okay. Because I think what we saw with Oregon, they had a variety of weapons to try to beat you. And I think you were, like, in a normal year, you weren't limited. Like, it was good enough to run through the league, right? But not on that stage, it wasn't. I still think, and so the other position don't we'll talk defensive tackle in a second, so let me forget that, Calvin. But let's transition from wideout to the guys that cover the wideouts and the DBs. I think the thought is Bryce Pollock will be back here. I don't know if that's just 100% lock. I think that's the hope. That's kind of the thought. And so you've got, you graduate a few guys, but then Macho Stevenson is going to leave. Mo Horn is now going to leave. And again, you always have to understand, could these guys like circle back and go, man, I got into the portal. I really like to stay here. I didn't find anything else better. Will you have me back? Sure, man. I mean, there's always those possibilities too. But, Dante Balfour is one that obviously graduates from those touchdowns. So you now – you may have your starting corners back, but now who's behind them? What's the depth look like? Because not that Macho and Mo played a whole lot at all, but again, you're one play away here and there. So the depth at that position is taking a serious hit, and maybe those guys would have been in line to push forward, but now maybe we don't find out. So there's that. I don't know if you necessarily were like getting into the portal thinking, you took 5 DBs last year thinking you got to go get a corner. But now maybe you take 1, maybe you take 2. Just keep an eye on that one. Now let's go to D tackle.
First, today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. And football is in full force, and FanDuel's keeping you stocked with action every game day with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet only $5, and if your bet hits, you're getting $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. Any way you like it, FanDuel has you covered. Quick, easy, and secure every time. If you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
Now let's go to D tackle. This one is gotten interesting. It maybe even got more interesting because of the football game. I'll get to that in a second. The Orange Bowl. I think you're replacing Lee Hunter, and I feel all these guys that are going to come in here, we don't know all of their names yet, but because Bryce Butler is the likely or most likely candidate from the University of Washington that may replace Lee Hunter, put him next to A.J. Holmes, and you're cooking. But, man, replacing Lee Hunter is going to be no easy task.
Love you, Lee.
God dang, man.
I miss you.
If there was an adoption program, I love the young man in my family, or I would love to be a part of his.
We're sharing that custody, Chris.
Yeah, he could adopt me. I just
okay.
I love everything that he's about, and he was so thankful. But the energy, the maturity, the big brother aspect, the protector of everybody, the never wavering. I mean, he had all of it, man. He had every bit of it. And gosh dang, man. I mean, of all the stars that are going to come through this thing, we've told Jacob Rodriguez's story. We know what Romello and David Bailey are. Cole Wisniewski is a dude. Lee Hunter, respect, man. I don't know if I'll ever, or if anybody will ever really grasp what number 2 on defense meant for you or what he did for you this year. But you got to replace him. And like, I'm not a big jersey guy. Like, I love that guy so much. I may root for, I probably won't buy a jersey because that's just not what I do. But wherever he gets drafted, I'm an instant fan of that team. I mean, Lee Hunter stuck with me, man, as we go. Highest praise I could give him. Tariq Owens is the best. That's the best comparison that we can offer up here. But you got to replace him, and I think that Skylar Gould-Howard's situation is not going to allow him to get that extra year, I don't think. So I think you could be adding 2 interior D linemen, but maybe 3. Maybe 3. Here's why. Jaden Cofield went down early in that game in the Orange Bowl. I'm going to just offer up a very educated guess. And when they start looking at immediately the back of your foot, kind of up your calf, I'm fearful that may be an Achilles issue. If there's any Achilles issue at all, that is long term. Maybe he got lucky, so maybe it isn't that bad. I don't know, but that is one to watch. And if it's an Achilles issue, it's kind of like Dingle with linebacker. I just think that you're probably not going to be able to count on him next year. So Bryce Butler, there's a young man out of Wake Forest, there's a young man out of Akron, there's a young man out of Jacksonville State. I could see you trying to bring in 3 guys at least to add to A.J. Holmes. There's also some rumblings about Braylon Rigsby portaling. Don't know what to think there. Haven't seen anything at the time that we're talking right now. Maybe if Cofield is injured, maybe Rigsby's like, maybe I'll. So I don't know. I'm just going off the lay of the land as we know it here. Yeah, and that we haven't talked about edge guys and all that stuff because I think it points to 2 candidates specifically, one in the Big 12 and then one on the West Coast. So we'll spill that when we get further down the road. But yeah, you may be pulling one out of the Big 12 and then one. That I think the NFL folks like a lot out of California. So that's 3 positions that you may be adding more than you originally thought, and yet it's still the QB is the most important thing. You still need linebacker help. Austin Romaine fans out there, let's hope that's on lock because if so, I mean, I think you've replaced Jacob Rodriguez about as good as you possibly could have from a player standpoint. You just hope that he fits in culture and all that. But I think there's a lot of Kansas State conversations going on here. I'll just say that because talking about wideout. Jace Brown, who's their fastest guy, and there was their lead receiver. He may be in the mix at some level too for you. But I don't know how receiver is going to work. And again, all of these candidates, it can all change. What do we want? What are we willing to give you? What do you want? What are you looking for? Do you want starting spot? You want the most money? I mean, so it all has to fit. So. But yeah, man, buckle up.
I'd like to just keep you going. You're telling me very exciting things, but we got to shut it down. We're out of time. And I'm sure there's going to be more exciting things to discuss very, very soon. So get subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you never miss an episode. We're back to a portal party. Chris, appreciate the time as always, man. And we'll see you for the next one, whenever that may be.
Head on a swivel season is here. Stay up to date. We'll try to do the best we can. And basketball tomorrow at the arena, conference play starts. No rest for the weary, and no time to grieve, man. We're back at it. Guns are still up. We still have hope alive. 12-win season. I'm not going to sit around and mope about it, even though I really want to. But it ain't happening. Onward and upward from here.
Yeah, absolutely not. Those who are keeping the wheels turning and greased are doing no moping. I know that for a fact. All right, appreciate the everydayers for always being out there riding along, and of course the Matador Mob as well. Hit our show notes and find a link to a free 14-day trial. That's your direct line to Chris and myself with one-on-one text sent straight to your phone. For Chris, I'm Casey. Thanks as always for the time. We hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.